Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing well. It's the 12th of January already, that's absolutely insane. I had hoped to be with you sooner to review the book I'm here to review, but some things have happened that have kind of thrown off that course. So obviously returning to work, it was because New Year was right in the middle of a week, so I went back on the 2nd, I had a couple of days, and it was a weekend, and then it was back to a full week of work, so it felt like my start point for reading this book. It felt very weird because it was in the middle of a week, so I was like, oh, take the week and a half, so I decided to do that. Secondly, we've had a couple of bereavements in the family. One is relative, one a very close family friend, which kind of shook us up. They happened within 9 days of each other. Obviously I'm not going to dwell on too long on this because obviously it's private and everything, but yeah, that was caused a bit of a shake, as it were, to us as family, and yeah, so we're just processing that and such, and going through various stages of grief and everything around that. And thirdly, I've got a new job. So it's just kind of felt like a lot of stuff has just happened like all at once. So my new job is in the company that I work in now. It's just in a different department, different team, doing kind of like the same thing as I do, but bit different. And yeah, I've basically been doing my job that I currently have for 16 years now, and this 8 months secondment came up. I applied for it, I got the job. So and I now know that I'll be starting full-time from the 3rd of March, and I've got a few days that I'm going to be working in the build up to that, so about Feb, like 1 or 2 days a week, just to get me into the swing of what I'll be doing, and then I go full-time from the 3rd of March. But the week of the 3rd of March is my week off. So I'll have a bunch of days that I'll be doing this sort of splitting between the two roles. Then I have a week off, and then I'll be full-time after that point. So yeah, my new job. So that's going to be really interesting. A lot of people, I got such outpouring of messages of congratulations and saying how I deserved it, and just kind of like outpouring love, as it were, from my colleagues, which is absolutely lovely to have. So yeah, so it kind of feels like these couple of weeks that had this real mixture of high and low, but yeah, it's how we've started 2025, and I'll see what continues to be like going forward. But anyway, I am here to talk about, enough of my personal life, I'm here to talk about the book I've been reading for the past week and a half, which is Beatrix Potter by Linda Lear. So this is a book, I remember the exact location I was now when I bought this book. After my last video, when I was saying, okay, these are the books, I was saying I was in the Lake District when I bought this years ago with my parents, and I couldn't remember exactly where it was. I was thinking, where is it? And then I realised, after I had uploaded it, oh my god, it was Hawkshead. Of course it's Hawkshead, because Hawkshead is very important to Beatrix Potter and her life, later life and such, when she was Mrs. Heelis. So we went to Hawkshead for a day, and Hawkshead, it's quite a small area, but there's literally like one road with some shops, and they're like the bunch of shops that you have, or at least when I was last there. Let me just clarify that. And it was just like this bunch of shops that were around. So you had like a cafe, and you had an actual Hawkshead, so the company, they sell boots and walking gear and all that lot. And yeah, like a bakery and such as that. And there was this one bookshop that it was full of Beatrix Potter stuff. And I found this book in there, and I bought it. And I remember starting to read it, but I couldn't remember finishing it. So I classed this as a first read, because yeah, I couldn't for the life of me remember. And so I jumped straight into this, and I have to say, I thought it was a charming book to read. Now, Beatrix Potter, in case you aren't aware, wrote so many children's books, but most famously, The Adventure of Peter Rabbit. She was an extraordinary woman who basically, the Lake District exists, as it were, as it is, untouched from when she lived there in Victorian era, because of her and others like her who felt that we can't sell off this land to develop for housing and such. We need to preserve it. So she bought nearly 5,000 acres of land through the Lake District, farms especially, and then rented them out so that the work of the farms could continue going. And obviously people could use their skills, teach the next generation and such. And then when she died, she said in her will that all of my lands, everything is to go to the National Trust, who will preserve the land going forward for generation after generation, which they continue to do. And so, yes, Beatrix Potter was an extraordinary woman. She lived in a time where women and such, basically their role was to get married, have children, and that was really it. They didn't have careers. They didn't have, especially in the level of class that she lived in. Just to clarify, because I just realised, oh, hang on, there were a lot of working women and children and such in Victorian England and such, but particularly for her class, she was born into wealth. She should marry into wealth and then have children, and that was it. And she went, nope, not doing that. She had a great love for nature, and I love the fact that from an early age she was taken to lectures about nature. She went to museums. She took in so much information that she could find. She had all of these, because of her status, she was able to get access to all of these books, academic journals and such, to learn from, drew from them. And she had an incredible talent for drawing and painting from a very young age. I mean, I just need to find the picture, but there's an extraordinary painting that she did of a rabbit. So yeah, for example, that's one of her drawings. It's beautiful, and that's a painting as well of hers. And there's another one. It's just the way she was able to capture not only the details of the animals and such, but also the nature of the animals at the same time. And she did the same for plants. So here's a couple of her plant paintings as well. Just absolutely beautiful from a very young age. And I adore this one of a little mouse reading a book on a candlestick. Just, oh, so cute. Yeah, she was able to capture almost an other world through drawing nature, and that's when her imagination really started taking over. From a young age, she made up stories and such, but she found that she was able to bring her love and knowledge of nature, animals, plants and such into her imaginary world, and came up with the story of Peter Rabbit, and that became her first book that got published. Now, she also was incredibly knowledgeable about lots of other things. For example, when she found a publisher, it took some time to find a publisher, but when she did, she knew exactly how large the book would be, how many paintings that she wanted, if they should be in black and white or colour. Because of the cost, she felt like, oh gosh, it would be best to do it in black and white, because then that way it would reduce the cost, so then people would be able to to buy it, because she didn't want them to be expensive. She wanted them to be that anyone could buy them, who could afford it, obviously, and therefore get Peter's story out there. And her publishers went, well, actually, because she wanted about 40 paintings per book, per story, and they went, well, actually, if we just reduce the number of paintings, that means we can make them colour and it still be the same price. And she was like, oh, okay. So she learnt things as well in the whole publishing process. But because she had drawn and had postcards published that she had done of various flowers and nature and such, she already had that kind of business savvy about what she should be paid, etc. And she was an incredible businesswoman. To say that she lived this, in a way, sheltered life because she was a woman of Victorian era. She lived with her parents, and because she never married, she stayed with her parents. It was the thing that happened. Women only left their parents' home the day they got married. So, because she didn't, she stayed at home. And it wasn't until she had published, a few books that she went, okay, can I actually afford to buy my own house? And her accountant went, yeah, basically you're rich for the rest of your life. You do realise this for the amount of books that you have sold. And she had absolutely kind of no idea. And so she bought a house in the Lake District, a farm, and that's where her new venture into farming and her knowledge expanded even further, and she became this very, as I said, savvy businesswoman to do with purchasing farms, making sure that they are kept working, giving the land back to the people, preserving it. And she learned how to be a farmer. She had no idea. She'd never done it before. She'd lived in London all her life. So she was actively helping out on the farm, mucking out stables, dealing with pigs, digging whatever needed to be done. And there is a bit where it talks about how she was helping to deal with the roof and she accidentally fell through the roof, and thankfully she wasn't seriously hurt, but still it was just a bit like, just imagine like Beatrix Potter, she's like, okay, there's some up the roof, I'll get up there, I'll get it done. She didn't allow things to hold her back, and I loved that about her. And reading through this book, I felt like I understood her in a completely different level than I thought I knew her, which is what non-fiction, biographies and autobiographies should also do. I think Linda Lear approached this very well. I do have some issues, though, with it. Firstly, there is a lot of information. Given the nature of the subject, that's kind of obvious that was going to happen, but I feel like there are some things that Linda spends a lot of time talking about that perhaps didn't need to be so long. And just to put it in perspective, 100 pages of this book is just the notes, the academic notes of references that she makes through the rest of it. So if you've got 100 pages worth of notes in the book, that's a bit like, oh God, you can imagine that's quite overwhelming. Now, of course, Beatrix wrote so many books. She published so many images, paintings, etc. And each and every one of them obviously is referenced. So you can understand the need for such a long note section, but then all of the academic papers that she read, all of the people that she interacted with, all of this stuff is also captured in those notes. So there is a lot going on in this book. At times I felt like, okay, can we just spend a little bit longer on this particular section? I know Beatrix, so for example, slight spoiler if you didn't know, but she was engaged to a gentleman who passed away, and then she married another man later on in life. I would have liked it, even though it is covered and everything, and her reaction to his passing, it just kind of feels like it's very, and then he died, and then she moved on. Just it just kind of felt like, because that was a big thing, this shift that happened in her life, and it kind of triggered her thoughts and feelings about, you know, leaving home and this, that, and the other. And it kind of feels like that should have had a little bit longer time to sit in that quiet stillness. And that's the thing about Beatrix. She never stopped. She never, it's like her mind was constantly buzzing. She never had like the quiet moment until something kind of came completely out the blue. And that death came completely out the blue and knocked her off kilter. And so me personally, I kind of felt like, oh, if we just sit in that quietness and how she processed it a bit longer, I think that would have been a lot better. So you just constantly da through this book. And because of that, sometimes it can just feel a little bit overwhelming. But overall, it is that thing, though, and I totally get it, because of a life that was so extraordinary, was full of so many things going on. Where's the fine line between telling the story and editing it? Yeah, I get why Linda did what she did with this book. She had to keep the pace rolling in order to make sure that she covered everything possible with Beatrix that she wanted to or needed to. But I just kind of personally felt like I find Beatrix really interesting in those kind of quiet moments. And I did appreciate that Linda, when you get to Beatrix's later life, and Beatrix went through a lot of illness, she spent that time going over it. And as it reaches further and further to her passing, you can feel that silence setting in for Beatrix. And so she does spend that time and making that extension with her writing to kind of like draw out the ending of Beatrix's life. What I do love as well is that she talks a lot about after Beatrix died. Her husband, William, lived 18 months longer than Beatrix. Not long at all, but 18 months. And he did everything possible to keep Beatrix's work going and such, and make sure, obviously, for the National Trust and everything, that all of that is sorted for the next generation. He was perfect. Everything he did stunningly. As an old man doing all of this stuff, I can't imagine. And also grieving the loss of his wife, who they'd been together like 30 years at that point. Just I don't know how he did it. And Beatrix, she didn't want a funeral, she didn't want any flowers, no letters, nothing. She wanted nothing done. She just wanted to disappear. And I really respect her for that. She was cremated and her ashes were scattered. We know it was around the farm that she lived, Hilltop House, where she lived with her husband for a time and such. And it's the key place for visiting Beatrix's work and life and such. I've never been. My mum and dad have been, I've never been. And I've just realised I left it over there. I've got a Lilliput Lane ornament of Hilltop, which I see every day and I absolutely love it. My mum and dad got it for me. And so her ashes were scattered near there, but we don't know where. And it was William and Tom, who took over Hilltop House and such, who scattered the ashes. Tom told his son exactly where. As I said, because William died 18 months later, and Tom scattered his ashes in the same place as Beatrix. Tom told his son, that then his son never told anyone, and when he passed away, at the actual location died with him. So we know his son did mention in 1986 that it was around the mountain, but near Hilltop, but he'd never told the specific location, and so it died with him. So we don't know where Beatrix is. We don't know where William is, but I love the fact that it's around the place where she loved, where she felt safe, that she just adored so much. And it got me teary-eyed. It really did, the ending of this book. Linda conveying that information so beautifully. It brought a tear to my eye. So even though, as I said earlier on in the book, I felt like this is rather rushed, and I'm like just da 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 da. I wanted to slow down. When Linda slowed it down, she slowed it down at the perfect point, and yeah, it got me emotional. I think also she was very, very fair to everyone who encountered Beatrix, because there were some shady characters in there, and one in particular who wasn't shady at all at first in her life, and then turned out was quite a shady guy at the end. Who she basically saved his ass in order to save her career. But yeah, I was surprised by that. I didn't know that whole story with him, and so it's very easy for someone who's writing a biography to then talk about individuals in a very negative, almost like throwing their own personal feelings about certain individuals that encounter the life of our main subject into their book. But Linda didn't do that. She said, look, okay, this is the facts, this is what happened, this is how Beatrix responded, we've got this letter evidence of how she responded, and this is what she did in order to save her career. And yeah, she was very, very fair. And I also love how Linda respected privacy. So especially like William Heelis, as I said, who was Beatrix's husband, he was a man of the law in the Lake District to do with farming law and such. But he was also a man who was quite quiet, and he appreciated the little things in life. He was a quiet, private man. And she went, okay, I respect that. And she didn't, it might possibly be because of lack of letters and such, but I felt like with William that she didn't spend too long like talking about things that he said or things that he did. I think he was just an incredibly private man, and she respected that. Some biographers, you can find that they will say that because we don't have anything of that, but having talked to relatives and stuff like this, and it's like, no, she never mentioned that. I kind of feel like that she felt, look, because Beatrix is my focus, I'm going to focus on Beatrix, I'm going to focus on letters that she corresponded with other people about William, but that's as far as I'm going to go. William is his own person. And yeah, I don't think he would have liked me invading his privacy. So there we are. Overall, a highly enjoyable read. It was like, especially because it's been so freaking cold here in England, in the UK. And I say that when the people have suffered like minus 18 degrees C throughout over the past week. We've had like minus 6 at most, and it's been freaking freezing, so I'm nowhere near being as cold as other people, but especially in weather like this time of year, it felt like lying into a warm bath and just letting the heat just calm you. There was something about the escapism of this book that I just really responded to. Yeah, it was a bit rushed at times and such, but Linda never lost Beatrix. She never allowed her own thoughts, feelings, emotions get in the way of the stunning beauty that was Beatrix's character. She respected her so much with this book, and I think it's a beautiful dedication to an extraordinary woman, so respectful. I just loved it. I really loved it. Now, when it comes to adaptations of Beatrix's stories, 2 that I very much recommend are Miss Potter, the film where Renee Zellweger plays Beatrix Potter, and we also have like Ewan McGregor and Lloyd Owen playing the 2 very important men in Beatrix's life, and When Roald Met Beatrix, which was a Sky Christmas drama that was done a few years back, of the true story of when Roald Dahl, 6-year-old Roald Dahl, travelled to Beatrix Potter's farm and went, "Hello, I'm a fan of your books." And Dawn French plays Beatrix Potter in that. Yes, it's obviously a lot from Roald's perspective, but what I love about that is that it really showed Beatrix's frustrations of dealing sometimes with the publishers that she had in her life, managers, but also just wanting to work on a farm, to be left alone, to just have the life that she wanted to leave away from the limelight. And now that I've read this book, I really respect it even more, and can, yeah, that's really the Beatrix that I see in my mind of day to day, of how she lived, how she worked, her ethic. And you can understand from that Beatrix as well why she wanted no funeral, no flowers, no anything to do with that. She just wanted to disappear in death. And I totally love and respect her for that. So I'll include trailers to each of them in the description below if you want to check them out. But yeah, I love Miss Potter. Miss Potter is my comfort period drama film. No matter what mood I am in, if I put that on, I am just completely immersed and I am back to being me. And I say that, you know, because obviously if I'm not feeling well, if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling really angry, and if I'm just feeling just generally just happy, and I just feel like watching a feel-good film of mine, and you know how I love period dramas and such, it is just perfect for me. So yeah, I really, really strongly recommend Miss Potter. I think it's a beautiful film. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Beatrix Potter by Linda Lear. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me comments below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, tell you decide. And I've just realised I forgot to ask my questions. Oh, first video 2025 and I'm forgetting myself. So would I read this again? Yes, I definitely would. I would actually probably like to go back to the Lake District at some point and read it, actually be immersed in Beatrix's world. As I read this. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, absolutely. If you want a really good biography about an extraordinary woman that is in-depth, is just a joy to read and so engrossing, then yeah, I definitely give this one a go. And would I read any more of Linda Lear's work? Yeah, I think I would. I haven't actually had time this morning to look up her other works, so I don't know what her other works are, her other subjects, or if she actually has any other books. I have no clue. I'm gonna have to research that after filming this. But yeah, I definitely would. So there we go. So yeah, so there we are, guys. First review of 2025. Well, hey, and I'm hoping to be back next weekend with my next review, which is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I think this is going to be a really interesting one. So I will see you then. All right then, everyone. Bye.